of the Weightlifting World podcast. Today we're joined by one of our favourite female weightlifters. She's an 11-time Norwegian champion. She's taken 4 golds in the Junior Norwegians, 3 golds in the Youth Norwegian Championships. She's competed at numerous international competitions and placed 6th at the Europeans in 2013. Welcome, Anja Jordalen. Hi Anja, how are you?
Hi, thanks. I'm good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Can I just make sure I pronounced your name correctly?
Yeah, Anja.
Yes.
You can just call me Anja.
Anja and Jordalen or Jordalen?
Jordalen.
Jordalen.
Oh, that sounds
Jordalen.
much better.
Very Scandinavian.
Yeah, Viking.
Well, actually, our surname is Norse. So yeah, I'm not sure if we have some Scandinavian heritage.
Ah, yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
well,
I appreciate that as well.
We've actually, we've kind of followed your career for a number of years, because I guess something that always appeals to us and is interesting to us is when you see a female weightlifter who is very strong, very successful, but who also maintains that femininity. And I think that's something that you've done, and I think because of that, you've always been a good ambassador for female weightlifting.
Thank you very much for all the compliments. I'm flattered. Thank you.
Well, so just start off by just telling us a little bit about your childhood, growing up in Norway.
Well, I grew up in the city of Rain, as it's called. So, yeah, I don't know. I spent a lot of time training because there was really not much to do outside in the rain.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, even though I'm currently doing a master degree, I was never really keen of going to school.
Okay.
So I preferred going to training. And yeah, it gave results. So my childhood was happy with my beautiful family, and yeah, I have been lucky, blessed all my life.
And what's your master's degree in that you're studying for at the moment?
In Russian.
In Russian, okay.
Linguistics, yeah.
Very useful where you are living now.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, obviously, you mentioned there that you were heavily into training as a child, but were there any other activities or sports that you engaged in?
Oh, I tried like everything first. Like I tried football, but like running, that's just not my thing.
Yes.
Diving, badminton, wrestling. I wanted to play tennis. Yeah, wrestling.
Wow.
For 6 months or something. I loved it, but
Yes.
I don't think my body would survive long in wrestling.
I don't think anybody's body survived long in wrestling.
Yeah. Well, there are some examples.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I started weightlifting about 14, and yeah, I couldn't stop like after the first training, because then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get good at this.
And how were you introduced to it? Who introduced you to weightlifting?
There was actually a guy in my class. He kind of forced me to go and just like at least look when he was training, and I was like, whoa, oh my god, boring. And I wanted to play tennis, of course.
Yes.
Great sport.
And so he dragged me to the weightlifting training, and I was sitting there like, where are the bodybuilder-ish people?
Yes.
And I just didn't get it, because like people actually looked like normal people, but they were lifting.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. But like I never thought that it was for me. But then he told me that he had some spare training clothes in the wardrobe, and he kind of like, well, yeah, he forced me kind of to try.
Yeah.
And the first training, like the coach told me that like everything I did was so amazing. It was great. And I was like, awesome. Then I'm going to continue, and I'm going to be like the world champion. And the next training.
So do you think that coach, the motivation that coach gave you, do you think it was 100% genuine, or do you think that coach knew that in order for you to come back, that he needed to be very positive with you?
I think, well, like all weightlifters and people who are like coaching other weightlifters are happy to see new faces.
Yes.
So I think the interest was genuine.
Yeah.
And also like the next time I came, like everything I did was wrong again. So I'm not completely sure. And then I got like that shit. I'm gonna show them I can do better.
Yes.
But after like 6 months or something, I took my first Norwegian record, and that was a record that everyone has thought to be like unbeatable at that time.
Wow.
So like I guess I had some talent as well, but but there's nothing really to brag about.
and how old were you at that point when you broke that record, and what were the weights you were lifting, and how much did you weigh?
God, I'm not completely sure. I think it was in the 53 category.
Okay.
As a youth, and I probably lifted 48 kilos in snatch or something.
Yeah.
I'm not completely sure, but I think that's what it was.
Around there, yes.
Do you come from a long line of strong people? Are your parents quite good athletes? Are they strong people?
There's absolutely no one in my family who does any kind of training.
Really?
Is that...
Seriously, I'm like the only one. I'm like the outcast or something.
Maybe they used to do training, then they saw you started and thought, we can't compete
and then
with
they're
her.
like, shit. Yeah. I don't know.
And you mentioned before that when you first walked into the gym, you were looking around for bodybuilder type looking people. And do you think that initial maybe misconception that you had has played a role in the fact that you've always tried to look very feminine when you've lifted, and you've had obviously the pink in the costumes and things like that?
No, not really. But it's just like, I want to like feel good. So like,
yes.
If I feel good wearing pink, I'm gonna wear pink when I'm lifting as well.
Yeah.
So cool. I haven't really done anything like conscious about that, but
okay.
like I prefer to have my makeup done and everything done when I'm going to competitions, because
yes.
I know that they will be taking photos.
There's an American weightlifter called Heather Snethen, and she told us exactly the same thing. She said, I want to look good. If I feel good, then there's a good chance I'm gonna lift better. So
like if you don't feel good on the platform, you're gonna hold back and everything.
Right.
So
exactly. It's one of the things.
And I know that girl. I saw her.
Yeah, well, she knows who you are. She actually now.
She's so cute.
You both are.
It's like a little sisterhood of. There's like maybe 5 or 6 pretty female weightlifters, isn't there? Like really feminine, the really feminine ones. And there's like yourself. There's Heather from America. I'm just trying to think who else. Lydia Valentin. From Spain. And there's a couple of others as well.
I kind of think Evstakina looks quite hot in a quite muscular way.
Well, you should see the Olga Zubova who won at the World Championship.
She's lovely.
Yes, we met Olga. She's very nice.
Yeah, she is.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's just it's kind of just interesting to gauge why obviously why you obviously feel that way, but it's obviously positive that you feel that. If you step onto stage feeling confident in all aspects, including your appearance and so on, then you'll be more confident in the way you lift.
What would you say to girls out there who are looking at weightlifting and probably have the same feelings that you did when you first saw it, that it's just for men, it's just for people that want to be bodybuilders and get stronger? But what would you say to the girls that are almost a little bit too scared to try it?
Well, the first thing is that like weightlifting is an individual sport. There are no rules for like how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to behave, think, or be, or anything like that.
Okay.
So get into the sport, start training, and make it your own thing in the way you want.
And you can make loads of money. Or
not. You can.
Yeah.
But in some countries you can.
Yes.
In Russia, people make awesome money if they win like any medals. So.
Yes.
Sure.
So, just going back to that early period in your weightlifting career, just maybe give us a few stories or a few memories of those early years, something that specifically stands out in your mind.
Well, that's hard to say because there have been so many good parties.
Tell us about some of the parties.
Weightlifting parties?
Well, don't pretend that you guys don't know about that. Well, one thing that was quite fun, that this guy, Demir Demirev,
Okay.
I'm not complete. Do you know him?
It does ring a bell. I don't know him personally, but it rings a bell, the name.
Yeah, I had a wrestling match with him and I won.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm kind of proud of that. I think he got like silver or something at the Olympics.
Wow.
So yeah, that was quite fun.
And did you and did you go away on many competitions abroad where you would go with teammates, or maybe you'd take a bus journey and travel to a different part of Norway or Scandinavia?
Yeah, that's like the part I love most about weightlifting is all the traveling.
Yes.
So I have been like, yeah, in many countries, many different cities because of the sport, and I have people all around the world. So people, friends, that is.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, that's like one of the coolest aspects of weightlifting.
And who was your coach in those early years?
My coach, I don't think he's known to anyone abroad, but Jonny Sandvik was my coach at that time. So yeah.
And looking back on the coaching that he did with you, what is your perception of that now, looking back?
Well, he's a smart guy. Like when you're in the middle of a training and you just want to add and add and add on the weight.
Yeah.
Like at least I'm like that. I need someone to tell me to stop.
Yes.
And he has done that. Like I hate it in some way, but of course I appreciate it because you know I would probably be very injured if not.
And you listen to him too, which is quite strange.
No, not always. Sometimes I used to hide like the small weights inside.
Oh really?
Yeah. So he didn't see it. So I was like taking. Like some years ago, I was taking triple cleans on 92.5.
Yes.
And he thought it was 82 or something because I have been adding like inside.
And just looking back now, I mean, do you feel what are your perceptions on, you know, I guess overtraining, or you know, do you feel that, you know, kind of pushing more that kind of Bulgarian system approach where you're always pushing for more weights, do you feel that can yield some good results, or do you feel that, you know, working a bit within yourself and looking at more quality of technique and repetitions is more important? What are your perceptions?
Well, if you have already some experience with training, you can do the kind of like Bulgarian system and just kill yourself in some months after coming back after a break to get some results. But you know, it's not gonna last. It's definitely not gonna last. You're gonna be like crushed and devastated after your competition, and you're gonna have pains everywhere. And so like I prefer the kind of Russian system where you have like you're training on like 70% of your maximum and you're doing a lot of repetitions, and you're focusing on the technique and the speed. And like, you know, in Russia people don't go on maximum usually on lifts and things like that. There are some of them, of course, but that's the showman. Yes.
The Dmitry Klokovs of the world.
Yeah, he's one of them. He's competing also or participating in all the TV shows like not Stars on Ice yet.
Dancing with the Stars.
And there's the diving one as well.
Yeah.
Diving one as well. Yeah. And some other ones I don't remember what it is, but yeah.
And obviously the you know, something I've personally found in my training and coaching of other people is that, as you say, you can push to maximum for a period of time. But what I tend to find is that it's not so much that I feel overtrained or injured, but my technique breaks down. Did you ever see that really?
That happens when you're tired. Like if your technique starts getting bad, especially in snatch, then you're usually quite heavily trained. So then it would be wise to take some time with more easy training.
And obviously you've had some experience of the Russian system, and from what I've kind of seen and read and so forth, they seem to be very heavily reliant upon, especially in the early years, a multitude of different exercises and variations of the exercises. They'll have a lot of work from blocks or from the hang, and they use a wide variety of exercises. Is that what you've experienced, and is that something that you feel is positive, or do you tend to prefer to stick with the basic lifts?
Well, of course, like having a good overall strength is very important, but I hate it myself because all I want to do is like squat and take heavy cleans and things like that.
Yes.
But like there's a difference. If you want to become good, there's a difference between what you want to do and what you have to do to become good.
Yes.
So of course you should like do as many different exercises as possible, and you should like take care of your body, because if you're going to train like only snatch, clean and jerk and squat and pulls, you will get some kind of injury. And like everyone has their weak spots, and in the journey to become a better lifter you should always try to enforce your weak spots.
And in your own experience, in your own career, where do you feel the shortcoming would have been for yourself personally, if you just stuck to, as you said, heavy squats, heavy cleans, and you hadn't looked at other exercises? Or to phrase it a different way, what other exercises and what other techniques did you force yourself to do which improved your lifting, and how did they improve your lifting?
Well, to be honest, I'm one of the lazy ones. I'm like if people tell me to stretch, I'm gonna stretch as long as they're watching.
Yes.
But when they stop watching, I'm not stretching.
You and me have so much in common.
And that's the same for like stomach exercises and things like that. Like,
yes.
People has to stand there and watch me doing it and force me to do it if I'm going to do it. If not, I'm not going to do it.
This is news to me. I didn't realise there were stomach exercises.
Yeah, I know.
And
but yeah, I have tried like sometimes to do something, but no.
Do you feel that would have made a difference to your career, or do you feel that you?
Of course it would.
You think it would?
If I had recognized my weaker spots earlier, my pulls would never be so weak.
Okay.
Like when my maximum deadlift was 125 kilos,
yeah.
I clean and jerked 112 and a half.
Yes.
Wow.
So like that's not normal.
No.
And so you were obviously, so taking that as an example, did you work on your deadlift? You focused on it?
And that's actually the problem. Yes, I worked on my deadlifts, but I was training with heavy weights. I was thinking like I need to get my strength up. So
yes.
I'm gonna train like 5x5 or something like that on heavy weights.
Okay.
And my pulls became stronger.
Yes.
But I lost the speed because I was focusing on only power and strength, So
yeah.
It's actually like it would have been smarter for me to train with lighter weights in the pulls and do them like faster and maybe better technique, I think.
Okay, so you think that if you'd had spent more time doing more technical pulls with lighter weights and looking at speed, that you feel you would have got better results than actually physically becoming stronger?
Yes.
Very interesting.
No, I'm sure of that because like I have seen the videos from the European Championships this year.
Yeah.
And like there was even a guy commenting it because like I pull very high.
Yes.
Like I didn't train pulls like the month before the championships because of some problems. But like I pull very high, so if I had been making my pulls more effective instead of just like trying to get them stronger, then I wouldn't have to pull that high, and I would obviously pull more, I guess, as well.
Yes. And when you were using pulls in your training, were you someone that subscribed to the kind of methodology of maybe going 10% over your best clean if you were doing, say, a clean pull, or did you try and go heavier than that, or would you tend to pull with sub-maximal weights, maybe 80% of your best clean?
You know what? I don't know. I'm not the right person to ask questions like that.
I guess that's the coach.
I was training triple cleans with 100 kilos.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be okay in a normal training period for me.
Yeah.
And after the cleans, I was supposed to like just go straight over to the clean and jerk pulls.
Yes.
And I put 105 on the bar.
Yeah.
And I took 1.5 pull. That was like the maximum.
Okay.
So when I try to take pulls instead, something in my brain just stops.
Wow.
And it's more easy for me to clean it. It's more easy for me to clean 100 kilos than to like pull it somehow. I don't know why. But,
here's a question for you, and it's something that's popped into my mind from time to time. Is, I've always been a big believer in lifters. The most important thing in a training session being completed lifts. Trying to miss as few lifts as possible. But do you think there's something to be said for trying to maybe replacing pulls with attempts at heavy cleans? So say, for example, you have a best training clean of 115 kilos, that you go in and you attempt to clean 125. Now, clearly you're not going to achieve that clean, but what you are going to result in is a pull which mimics what you would be attempting to do in a clean more effectively than a traditional pull. Does that make sense?
It might sound something like the Chinese pulls, where they pull the bar and they start the movement to go under the bar as well.
They call it a panda pull.
Ah, okay. I never heard that. Well, I have no idea about that actually. I'm not an expert, but no, I think I would prefer to if my maximum clean was 115, I would prefer to go down maybe to 90 kilos
Yes.
and train proper pulls
Yes.
instead of attempting to squat, because then you might end up in a competition situation
Yes.
and you feel that it's getting heavy and you're just attempting instead of doing it. So
Yes.
that's why, like, in my head, it would be better to like do the lifts you're doing and make them good.
Yes.
Like if it's heavy and your technique is bad, then drop down on the weights.
Yes. So in a sense, for you, pulls are more about honing technique and improving speed and power than they are about becoming, I guess, much stronger per se.
Well, I should be stronger as well, but the thing is that, like, maybe the place I need to get stronger is not somewhere I can train by doing pulls.
Yes, maybe.
So maybe I should have done some other exercises, and that would have been more effective than training pulls like 2 times a day every day.
Sure.
A minute ago, we were talking about how the mind can almost shut you off and stop you from doing a lift. And I think this is something that every single weightlifter who's ever tried to lift a weight has experienced. How powerful do you think that sense is in your mind to just shut you off and stop you from doing a lift?
I'm usually, like, when I was younger, I was better mentally, I think, because now I'm scared of being injured, I'm scared of this and that. So, like, my brain has the ability to shut down.
Yeah.
And it got that ability in the Europeans, because the maximum lift I lifted in training before the Europeans was 95 kilos.
Wow.
And, like, I cleaned 100, I think. But, like, I was very heavily trained, so, like, I didn't have any extra energy for making good lifts. So my last attempt on 105 in clean and jerk, then I, like, usually I don't want to know what's on the bar when I go to lift, because then I start thinking.
Sure.
And then I heard that it was 105 on the bar. Great. And that I really needed that lift. And then my brain started, oh my God, you're not going to do this. You're not going to do this.
Yes.
And I'm like, what the fuck? Shut up.
Yeah.
Go lift it. You're not going to do it unless, like, if you think you're not going to do it, you're never going to do it.
Yes,
so, like,
yes.
Try at least.
No, I think the guy that coached me, I mean, he always said to me that in a jerk, if you stand there and if for 1 second a tiny bit of doubt creeps into your mind, you might as well just put the bar down, because you're not going to jerk it. You're only going to jerk it if you have no doubt, if you 100% believe.
Well, yeah, I have had the same, like, in trainings when I'm doing jerks.
Yes.
And I'm standing there and I feel that the weight is, like, it's just pushing me down to the ground, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be heavy.
Yes.
And then you just have to try to, like, shift your mind and think that, okay, if I do it correct, if I, like, make the technique good, then I know I can do it.
Yes.
So why should you tell yourself that you cannot do it? If
Sure.
you can really do it, you have the power to do it if you just do it correctly.
Yes.
So, like, if you get nervous and if you get those mental barriers, then just think about making the technique good.
Yes.
Instead.
Yes. So, as you were developing as a lifter and you were starting to win your first junior championships in Norway and so on, who were the weightlifters or other athletes that you looked up to and aspired to?
Lukanin, the Russian lifter.
Yeah.
He was, like, my first hero.
Yeah.
Because he had been lifting, like, this time I started, he had just been in Norway and lifted some crazy weights. So I was like, wow, he's cool. And also his technique is very special.
Yes.
And after that, in 2004, of course, I fell in love with Tanir Sagir and Shigishev.
Yes. Sagir has that incredible pull, doesn't he? Sagir's snatch pull is just incredible.
Well, yeah. Yeah, he's a kind of slow puller, but yeah. And then, of course, Lydia Valentin.
Yes.
She's my hero. And Natalia Zabolotnaya also. I love her power jerks.
Oh, she's incredibly strong, isn't she?
Jerks. Yeah, she's awesome.
I love her surname. To someone who lives in London, Zabolotnaya is such a gorgeous surname.
Seriously?
It's such
well, it means someone who are, like, from behind the sump.
Oh, really?
So, like, yeah, most of the Russian names have some meaning.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. And so this is a question that Matthew had put together. in a lot of international competitions, like we'd seen you sitting there listening to music, I guess in preparation for the lift. What kind of thing would be on your MP3 player? What kind of thing would be on your iPod when you're listening to that?
Now I'm thinking it's either rock music to get you fired up, either classical music to keep you chilled out and not to get too fired up, or could it be some Russian language lessons?
Well, like the week before competitions, I start my ego tripping because I know how important it is to like believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Because usually, like, I'm a girl. I'm going every day being like very self-conscious, like I'm not good enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. You know, all that bullshit that girls are
That's
thinking.
great if you need to lose weight, though. If you need to cut weight.
No, losing weight is terrible no matter what.
Yes.
But yeah, so like before competitions, I start listening to songs like maybe I don't even like them, but the lyrics are like good.
Yes.
Like there's some song I'm not sure who sings it, but the lyrics are like "The champ is here."
Yes.
So it's like some kind of like rapish song.
Yeah, yeah.
And
yes.
that's like one pre-competition song.
Yes.
And also there's some dubstep. I've been listening to dubstep even before competition.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't get that.
And
yeah,
that's
I can't
the song.
that one out.
I'm 32. I have no idea what it is.
I think it started in England. I think the first guy who started dubstep was English, but I don't get it.
Well, it can be catchy, I guess, but yeah.
You see, you two are the same age. I'm 32, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
No, but the most important thing was the lyrics in the song, because the lyrics are something like "I step into the room dripping in gold."
Yes.
And then I'm like, yeah, I'm awesome.
Yes.
But you know, things like that. Like in competition, usually I listen to things like Britney.
Okay.
Like
Britney Spears?
Yeah.
Oh god, I love Britney Spears.
Oh, seriously?
He does. So sad.
When I was younger, I really did. In fact, even now, I was in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and apparently she's going to be in Vegas, and I was thinking, God, if only it was a few weeks ahead. Oh, well.
That's sad.
There you go. I think maybe our loves of Britney are different. I used to think she was hot.
Well, the things I like her new music. I'm not really a big fan of her new music, but yeah. But she has a lot of good songs.
There was a period when she went from being sort of pretty and sweet to sort of slutty and dirty. And
yeah, and
although a bit of me liked that, another bit of me thought, well, the old Britney's dead now. When she became like slutty, sort of part of Britney died inside me.
You like the innocent one.
I did.
I kind of like the sluttish one as well.
Yeah, I mean, we all do.
This has rapidly descended into Desert Island Discs.
Well, yeah, okay, and yeah, my competition. Also, I have been listening to like some metal things.
Yes, this is more my stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
Who do you like?
Well, I don't remember the name. Like, there's one, like, I like songs, I don't like genres. I like only songs. So, like, some Dimmu Borgir songs.
Okay.
They're Norwegian, by the way.
Okay.
And there's a song called Where the Black Lotus Grows.
Okay.
That's more like punkish, I don't know.
Yeah.
But some people find it very metal-y.
Yeah.
Arch Enemy.
Okay.
God, I don't remember everything now. But yeah, but they're like, my playlist is like mentally fucked up.
Yeah.
You can even find opera and classical music there, and I'm gonna listen to everything.
Maybe you should put together a pre-competition mixtape.
Right now?
No, not right now. No. Not right now.
Well, if I would put it together a pre-competition playlist, then I would first have something like quite calm.
Yes.
To like relax before I start the warm-up, to think about something else and to breathe deeply and to try to get my mind off the lifting, or to maybe even some like mental lessons where there's some like person talking and telling you to relax and breathe deeply and visualize and things like that.
Yes.
And then later when the warm-up starts, I need something that makes me want to dance.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm usually dancing in the warm-ups a little bit.
I think we've seen that. I think we saw that in Tirana, I think, on the television. I think we saw you dancing.
Tirana? What? In Albania?
In Albania.
Oh, God. Well, yeah, it might happen.
Great.
I'm a bit more free about that in Norway because we don't have TV on the competition.
Yes, I guess.
Then you can see me running around and jumping in. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, all of this points to sort of the earlier comment, which was how important your mind is to how you lift. And I always think of music as an amazing tool to put your mind in the right position. So it's sort of just clarifying that a bit.
Yeah, but I totally agree.
So the 2008 Europeans, I think I'm right in saying that was your first senior international competition?
Yeah.
And just looking back at the numbers that you did, you came in at 69 kilos in that class. You snatched 90 kilos. You clean and jerked 112 for a 202 total. It was actually the best total that you ever recorded in a senior international, I believe, and that was back in 2008.
Terrible, isn't it?
Firstly, what are your memories and feelings looking back on that event, and why do you feel that you've not been able to get quite back to that? You almost did in 2011, but why do you feel you've not been able to get quite back to that form and surpass it in recent times?
Well, that's a very good question, because like everything can influence on your lifting.
Yeah.
But like at that time, like I just felt good. My body was working, but like 6 months, no, not 6 months, 3 months before the competition, I couldn't actually squat or anything. So I was just training like power snatch and power cleans.
Yeah.
So I got like shitty strong in those exercises.
Yeah.
But like afterwards, it went better. But then like I had some problems with my thighs and things like that. And there was 1 year wasted on some virus infection. I don't know what's it called. It's a Scandinavian virus infection.
Okay, that's fine.
Mononucleosis, actually, and some deaths in close family and things like that. And like everything just affected my whole life actually very severely. And weightlifting hasn't really been my priority after that.
Yes,
sure.
That's fair enough. And
Yeah.
what were your, looking back, what are your memories and feelings of that 2008 Europeans?
The 2000, that was just amazing, because that's when I like really started, like after that competition was when I started talking with my boyfriend, the guy who's my boyfriend now. So that was like a time made up with many emotions, good trainings, feeling strong. I had just started studying in university, and I loved that. And it was an interesting time.
Yes. What was your bachelor's or your first degree in?
Russian.
Oh, Russian as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you must speak very good Russian then.
No.
No.
I'm not very Russian.
Okay.
Why?
I love Russia, but I don't love everything about Russia.
No.
What about Russia do you love? I personally love sort of everything to do with the Cold War. I will sit and watch documentary after documentary about submarines in the Cold War or the space race or something like that. What about Russia do you love?
Well, those things are
Alexei.
very interesting. Yeah, I love my boyfriend.
Yes.
Well, like war things, like it's as long as it's interesting, that's okay. But like I can't watch documentaries about it because it makes me physically ill because I hate war.
Yeah.
So like I like, well, I don't know. I like the mentality of some, like in some aspects.
Yeah.
I like food.
Okay.
I like some of the buildings, the architecture, the literature.
Okay.
Well, I don't know.
Russian dolls?
I love
You like
the
Russian
language.
dolls?
The language is cool.
And how long have you been living in Russia now?
Well, on and off for about 5 years.
About 5 years. Wow. So it must be very different to Norway, I'd imagine.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll come back to some of that stuff a bit later on, but I just wanted to move on to 2009. Probably a bit of a disappointing championship for yourself, that Europeans that year, in that you didn't manage to record a snatch. However, just before the interview, we went and had a look back over the snatches. I remember actually watching the event on television, and the first snatch, it looked at first glance as if you'd made it quite comfortably, but you received a no lift by a majority of 2-1. At the time, how did you feel about that lift? And looking back now, what are your feelings?
Well, I don't think any weightlifter will be happy after missing a lift, and especially not after bombing out in a competition.
Yes.
Nevertheless, an international competition.
Yes.
But, you grow older, you have more experience, things are happening in your life, and you see that, it's not really that important.
Yes.
Of course, it's awesome when things are going good and you have good results.
Yeah.
But it's not life or death,
No. But that particular first snatch of the 3 that it looked initially as if you'd made.
I'm not sure if you remember it too well.
Yeah, I ripped my hand open.
Okay. Did you at the time feel you'd made the lift?
No, I felt the movement in the elbow, but
Okay.
I never thought they would be that strict, because like after my own lifts, I could see many lifts passing through that were even worse than mine. So,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
I can't do anything about that.
So, but you felt a bit. Did you feel a bit cheated at the time?
Well, I was just disappointed about my own performance, of
Yes.
course. But like, I can't influence the judges. I
No.
know that they are just doing their job. But of course, it's not cool to sit and watch the rest of the competition and
I
see
bet.
lifts like you're
Yes.
passing through. And you know that maybe if the judges had been someone else, then you would actually have a result.
Yes, absolutely. And do you feel that maybe the disappointment or whatever that you had following that first lift, do you feel that you carried that forward for the next 2 snatches?
No, that was my ripped open hand.
Just the hand, yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of like, I didn't get a good grip after that. Like when
Okay.
you're bleeding and shit in your hand, it's not cool.
No, absolutely. So you lifted at that Europeans. You came back the following year to lift at the Europeans again, and recorded 87 and 108. How were you happy with that performance?
Where was that competition?
That competition. Let me just double check this.
Was that maybe in Kazan? No, that was 2011.
2010.
Are you talking?
2010 Europeans.
Yeah, 2010 Europeans
Was in Kazan.
was Kazan. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what happened that year? That was when I got that mononucleosis
Yeah.
virus infection. So I was actually very sick at the time of the competition. Like
Okay.
I was dead. I had no energy, and I hadn't been able to train for about 2 weeks. And I was surprised that if I would even get a result, because as like women have to start like 15 kilos, like maximum 15 kilos below their announced total.
Yes. Yeah.
And that made me like have to start on some like decent weights, but they're not good weights, but like if you're full of some virus shit, then it's quite heavy.
Yes.
And I was coughing all the time, and that was like my biggest focus was not to get like a coughing attack on the platform, really.
Yeah.
And the trainings before the competition, like I couldn't do anything. I snatched 35 kilos and I went home crying, because like everything was just, I had nothing to give.
Wow.
So that was quite heavy, and at that time I was actually staying in St. Petersburg with my class for some language lessons.
Okay.
So I was prepared to not even get a result at that competition, and I wouldn't even mind, because I was really very, very ill at the time.
Yeah.
I remember watching the competition and thinking, it was a competition actually that Russia did very well at. It was a year after Tatiana Kasharina sort of came into her own in her category, the plus 75. The first appearance of Akayev at plus 105, and the whole
Sub 105.
sub 105, and the whole Russian team seemed to do very well. Do you remember being there and sort of experiencing a bit of that Russian pride?
Well, I had that Russian pride from my boyfriend.
Yeah.
When he was competing in the 85 kilo category against Okhadov.
Yeah.
But like I didn't know that I had heart problems until that competition.
Yeah.
Because it was almost killing me. Like my nerves when I'm watching other people compete, that they're like through the roof or something.
Really?
Yeah, it's terrible. I hate it. It's better when you're lifting yourself, because then you can like warm up and you can control the situation more.
Yes. Yeah.
Or like at least you think so.
Wow.
No, I feel the same thing coaching athletes rather than lifting myself. You know, when an athlete I'm coaching goes out to take their first snatch, you know, you're, as you say, you feel you have no control over it. It's a bit like being driven in a car versus driving the car yourself.
Well, yeah, I prefer to drive as well.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And it's like, whereas when you're lifting, as you say, you have full control over your warm-up, you have full control over what you do on the platform.
Well, just like at least you believe you have full control. You know, like anything can happen, but at least you can do something instead of just sitting there and watching and waiting. It's terrible to just sit there and wait. So yeah, but I was quite proud, yes, when my boyfriend won.
Yes.
And that was, I guess that was a Russian record in clean and jerk as well. So
wow.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
That was cool.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
So you also lifted at the 2011s. You basically performed, or 2011 Europeans. You basically performed very similarly to how you had the previous year, and then it seems as if you sort of disappeared a little bit from the international arena. Had you had any intentions of had you had any hopes of making the Olympics in London? Was it ever realistic?
Well, I had the dream, but like for it to be realistic, I don't know. I don't really think so, because we already had that awesome Norwegian girl who was lifting in 63, and like the place was already hers for the Olympics.
Yeah.
And like I have nothing on her, so yeah, it would never be realistic for me, I guess, as long as she's training.
Sure. And do you? Is it something that you obviously said that weightlifting isn't really so much your priority anymore? It's something you enjoy and something you do, but it's not something that you absolutely prioritise 100%. So do you feel that, you know, I think you mentioned to me before that you've had some injuries and things of that nature, which have prevented you from going back to training, and you've also mentioned that you're not sure if you ever will compete again. But if you did compete again, what would be your goals?
Well, I always have that one goal in my head to snatch like at least 95 and clean and jerk at least 115.
Yes.
But my goal, if I will have a competition again, would be to make a better result in the Europeans that I have this far. So that would be like striving for a medal or something like that.
And would you stay at 63 or would you go back to 69? Well,
you know, to go down in 63 for a food wreck like me, that's hell. So,
okay.
I don't know. It's very difficult for me, really.
Okay.
Because at the most I weighed like 72 or something.
Yes. So why did you choose to drop down to 63 for a couple of competitions?
Well, that was really because like after a long break, I had lost some weight. I really don't know why, because believe me, I'm not the person who actually tries to lose any weight.
Yeah.
Unless I have to or something like that. But suddenly my weight was like 65 and 66, and I was like, okay, if I'm gonna stay in 69, then I have to be like about 72 in trainings if I'm gonna have like a good effect of the category.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, well, 2 or 3 kilos, you can do that, but those 2 or 3 kilos, seriously, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
No, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
And so those last 2 or 3 kilos are the hardest ones.
Yeah, but there's no lost kilos on me. Like, I have plenty of kilos to take from. It's not that. But I hate restricting my diet.
You and me both.
Yeah, good.
And so obviously you did come back and you did lift in 2013 in a couple of major competitions. And I believe it was the Europeans in 2013 that you had your highest placing at European Championships. And you lifted very well. You lifted 83 and 105 at 63. And then you went on and you lifted well in the Universiade as well. Did you, at this point, did you kind of feel that this might be maybe your swan song? It may be the last international competitions that you did? Or did something happen there which potentially forced it to possibly be your last international competitions?
Well, the thing is that like 2 years ago, I had a disc herniation in my back, quite a bad one really, and it has been bothering me from time to time ever since.
Yes.
So like at the Europeans, I felt like that I was ready to like continue and make some good results and maybe stay in 63 and try to do better there.
Yeah.
But and then after that, I ended up at the Universiade in Russia,
Yes.
like the Student Olympics, as they call it, also. And like 2 weeks before the competition, then my back started to give me problems again.
Okay.
And I kind of lost like a lot of motivations because of some problems with the federations and things like that. So yeah, it was a lot of stuff going on, taking my motivation, my energy, and restricting my training. And
Yes.
it's not really worth it if you have to struggle to train and you have to struggle to, you know, I don't know how to say it in a nice way, but to have like a normal relationship with your federation.
Yes. And what would you say? Is it 50-50 whether you'll lift again, or is it more in favour, or more unlikely, or more likely?
Well, it is actually, as you say, it is 50-50.
Okay.
Because like I want to, but at the moment I'm focusing on finishing my thesis and to not have my back bothering me every day.
Yes. Yes. We'd love to see you lift again, because there is kind of a strong relationship between English and Norwegian weightlifting, in that for many years there's been this kind of three-way competition, England,
Yeah.
Norway and Sweden, that's taken place. And I guess you've competed in some of those.
Yeah, I have.
Any memories from those at all?
I'm not going to talk about the parties.
Okay.
But yeah, the English people are cool. I know that for sure.
How many times have you visited the UK?
Like I've been there on holidays as well, but I'm not really sure how many in total. Not very many times, but a few.
Okay, cool. So just a couple of quick questions before we move on to something else. What would you say are your biggest career regrets, and conversely, what are your proudest moments or career highlights?
I don't think I really have any regrets, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that should be, but like, of course, you can regret bad results and things like that. But if you don't have the day, you don't have the day.
Yes.
So.
And anything you wish you'd done differently looking back? Anything you think, oh, I was stupid to have gone down this route instead of this route? Anything like that?
Yeah, I should have trained like smarter, I guess.
Okay.
I should have listened to those people telling me to stretch and do core exercises and things like that.
No, not core exercises. Oh god.
So yeah, but I don't really have any regrets. Like, it has been a very giving time. The only regrets I have is like academical regrets, that I regret not giving my studies the attention that I should have, maybe.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
And your proudest moments, your highlights.
Well, my highlights. Okay, there was. Well, this is like really a stupid highlight, maybe, because it wasn't a very good result, but it was something. I lost my father actually in a traffic accident.
Okay. When was that?
That was in 2003, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like 1.5 weeks after that, we had the Norwegian championships in the same city as where he lived.
Okay.
God.
And I got a Norwegian record in snatch.
Wow.
And I kind of dedicated it to him. So that was like, yeah, he got that medal with him in the grave.
Yeah.
So that was something.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I will never regret it.
And that shows amazing strength from yourself to be able to to hold yourself together and perform. We lost our mother about 2.5 years ago, and I was in a very dark place for a period after that, and I think it shows amazing strength to be able to come back that quickly and almost perform for them, I guess.
Yeah, but the training, it helps to like get out some emotions in the process. So yeah, but yeah, it's of course it's not easy, and it's not the first or last person I have lost or gonna lose, I guess, in my life. But training helps you like ventilate a lot of emotions, both good and bad. So
absolutely,
I have been keeping my dad in mind on many competitions. So
that's good.
I think training is a great equalizer of people, even if it's not an emotional difference. If you just get people from different walks of life. Weightlifting seems to be sort of common ground, no matter whether you're North Korean, you're Chinese, you're Russian, or you're English. Weightlifting is something that everyone has in common, and all the things that you suffer and go through are all the same.
Yeah, it's cool that like all the nations and religions can be friends on the podium, because like nobody really cares about your religion or your nationality in weightlifting. I guess it's more about like we're already a part of the same sport and the same little family, so
yes,
it's cool.
And that's actually almost a perfect segue into you know, the other thing we were going to talk about, and I know that from our previous conversations that you're a big advocate for lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender rights. And is that something that you've become particularly passionate about since living in Russia, or did you always have these feelings?
Like when I was younger, I don't really relate to it in any way.
Okay.
But like I have never really cared very much about who loves who or who does what to who.
Yeah.
I'm watching out for myself.
Yeah.
And that's a big enough job for me usually.
Yes.
But like after I moved to Russia, I was just in shock, because you know, it's like they're stuck in the 1900th century or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're defending actually their attitudes with the Bible and things like that. And I have tried to tell people that, like, according to the Bible, you are more than likely to have sinned at least a few times in your life yourself.
Yeah.
But like they don't really care. They can sit and scream on the television, on the TV, that they like all the gay people should be burned and they should be killed and things like that. And like those sexual and gender minorities are attacked from both neo-Nazi groups and religious groups, and from the regular person, the average person, you know. And I have gotten comments like, you have to stop defending their rights, because if you continue talking like pro LGBT, then people might think that you're one of them. Yeah. And I'm like, one of who?
Who cares?
One
yes,
of people?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I am a person, I guess.
And I suppose it's because it's in Russia, and we just had the Athletics World Championships. It was in the press all the time.
Yeah.
But if we look back to sort of the 60s in the States, you know, that there was a huge race battle out there, and this, you know, is a very similar battle for different people around the world. And we know Russia for many years was really under a curtain. You know, they were told what to do and when to do it. And although
but it's still like that. The thing is that like the most parts of the world are moving forward in these cases, but Russia is moving backwards. They're making laws who makes it legal and okay to like harass these groups. Yes. And that's not okay.
No.
And the police, it has been like many cases where the police, they don't even care if someone are beating up the gay people in a parade, then they don't care.
Yes.
Really.
And I think it's you know, it's often very easy for us to forget, I think, in different parts of the world, that we didn't all culturally develop at the same rate. You know, in the way that we often look at maybe a Middle Eastern dictatorship.
Yeah, but you would expect the world to move forward, wouldn't you?
Well, you would, and especially in the times of mass global media, where people are exposed to, you know, images and media from all over the world. But it's, you know, I think sometimes we, you know, where, you know, Norway and I think Britain are very similar probably in terms of our levels of tolerance and so forth. And, you know, I think obviously, I mean, Anders Breivik, that was obviously an enormous global news story that was obviously was very close to home for you. You know, and I think the way that was perceived in Norway was probably exactly how it would have been perceived in the UK. You know, we're very much on the same wavelength, but then, you know, we look at other nations and they're at different levels of development in terms of their, I don't know, emotional, their tolerances and just generally their culture.
And that's, you know, that's different even in different parts of countries too. You know, certainly in the States there are very pro-gay rights areas, and over, I don't know, less than 1,000 miles away, they're completely the opposite.
Yeah, it's the same here. Like if you confront Russian people with the fact that there are people struggling to identify their gender and their sexuality into the normal, perfect fitted boxes that already exist, that they exist also in Russia, they will be like, nah, I don't think so. I never saw a gay person.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, they do exist in Russia. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, they exist
and then
everywhere,
they're like, well, maybe they exist in the bigger cities because that's a Western influence.
Yes.
But they don't. But I have been told that they don't exist in the city where I live now, with a population of 300,000 people.
But if you think about when our parents were growing up, they probably were far less aware of how many gay and lesbian, bisexual and transgender people were around, because I'm sure it was the same in Norway, that we've made this journey where we're much more tolerant and we're much more understanding, and it's we almost don't view it as tolerance anymore. We just view it as you say, people just living their lives. But I want to say when our parents were growing up, they would have been in I guess those kind of tolerances were starting to build, but they were very much more in their infancy, I guess. So
no, but I think that was the time. Like, I'm not sure exactly when it was, but that Kinsey, or what it was his name, maybe Kinsey or something.
Yeah.
His report on those kind of issues, like sexual matters.
Yeah.
And I think he concluded that about 1 of 20 gay people, of people were gay. So,
yes. Yeah,
but I don't know. That's like.
But people wouldn't talk about it. People wouldn't. I mean, people wouldn't be open about their sexuality in even a generation ago, or as open about it.
No, but in Russia today, of course, no one wants to be open about their sexuality when you can hear people like your own parents. Like, actually, okay, in 2012, actually, there were in Russia 3 times more teenage suicides than the world average.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you I think it would be stupid to not link that to some of those attitudes.
Yes.
Because when you have a teenager struggling already with themselves, and you sit and hear your own parents talking about that all the gay people should be killed and things like that, then you don't know where to turn, you don't know who to talk to, when you know that even your family would cut the contact with you if you were gay or had any gender issues. And
I think this is a big part of it. Part of the issue if you're in areas of the world that are hyper religious, and I guess there's a lot of hyper religious Christians in Russia. I guess there's obviously a lot of hyper religious Islamic people in Russia.
But you know what? There's many people in Russia actually. If they get sick or something, first they go to the church to pray to get better.
Yes.
And the final solution only is to go to the doctor.
Exactly. So, and I think this is the issue when you have a very antiquated, very old set of religious-based guidelines through which to live your life. We see this. So we see this in the Middle East. We see this in all manner of areas of the world, parts of the world, where people are basing what is right and wrong off of some interpretation of a religious book, rather than just making a determination from what they can see with their own eyes and what they can experience with their own sense of empathy and so on.
Yeah, I had actually some people here in Russia being very surprised when I told them that when I went to the university there was 2 gay people in my class.
Yes.
Well, seriously? Can they be smart?
It's crazy, isn't it? Why do you think Russia? Because I mean, it is part of Europe and it is part of Asia in its own way. Why do you think that Russia seems to be, and it's probably the same across Ukraine and Lithuania and other states in that area of the world as well? But why do you think Russia is so far behind Western tolerances?
I think that is because of the fact that the church has a lot of power here.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of propaganda going on because for Russia, at least, as a very big country divided by Asia and Europe.
Yes.
They want to find their own way and their own way to do things and their own way to live that is not European and not Asian. So they want to like do their own thing. And that's of course very difficult, like after the fall of the Soviet Union and things like that. So like, in my opinion, it's just the country trying to find their own way at the moment.
Yes.
But I really hope it gets better for the sexual and the gender minorities, because right now people are getting killed, tortured, and beaten up for their sexuality, and that's terrible.
Yes.
And people allow it here. They don't think that's bad because, well, they are gay, so maybe if they get beaten up, they will understand that it's wrong.
Well, I think this is something that I do think that homosexuality and you know the other groups surrounding that do have, even in tolerant societies, even in Britain. I'm not sure what Norway's like, but it's almost that they are still a target group that you can make the butt of a joke. You know, you wouldn't see a stand-up comedian in Britain, for example, making a brutally racist joke or a joke that was very religiously insensitive. You wouldn't hear a joke, for example, about the Holocaust. You wouldn't hear you know, someone use the N-word in a joke too frequently in London. But you would still hear jokes about homosexuality. You would still hear, if someone wanted to be derogatory, they might still call them a queer or gay, or they might still use those words. Yeah, we have those
kind of words in Norway as well.
And it's acceptable. It's almost, you know, it's acceptable in Britain to use that. It's acceptable to call someone gay, and it
is kind of accepted in Norway as well. But the thing is that people are just not aware of that, because like I have been using, like, telling people like, what, are you gay or what, just for fun, because of ignorance. And I am really trying to like watch my own language and how I reflect my own attitudes, because I don't want to be a person that anyone would be afraid to tell about their sexuality or their gender to, because those people who have those issues and problems, they need all the help they can get.
Yes, but I think it's important that we, obviously it's a much more severe problem in Russia, but I think it's important that we accept that this is an issue globally. You know, it's of a much higher severity in Russia, but it's still, even in 2013, it's still not easy being a lesbian person, a gay person, a bisexual or a transgender person anywhere in the world, I think.
Well, I don't know. At least in Russia, it's bad. It's like sometimes I wish I was both transgendered and gay just to piss people off here.
Yes.
Because it's really that bad.
Yes.
Because I don't see what the problem is. Like, in my opinion, if you're talking to another person, the person is either a good person or a bad person out from its ideals and actions, but not from who they love. Like, no. Love never killed anyone.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think so what do you think can be done? What do you think the global community can do? I mean, for example, do you support a boycott of the Winter Olympics? What do you think the global community, from a political level, governmental level, down to an individual level, what can people do to improve this situation, or at least put pressure on?
Well, if you are not a cold-hearted idiot and you don't have any problems with gay, bisexual, or transgender people or things like that, then start flagging it around, start talking about it, support the groups that you can support in any way you can, just give them attention, spread the word in any way you can.
Yes.
Like, I wouldn't like support any boycotting of an Olympic event, because it has been cases of that before, like politically motivated. But this is, in my opinion, this is about human rights. It's not about politics. It's about human rights, global human rights. So,
I mean, personally, I think it would be the right thing. I think if the global community were to boycott this particular this Winter Olympics, I think it would send such a message that it's unacceptable. That I think perhaps people even within Russia would have to question it. If everyone else is telling you it's wrong, then maybe you have to start looking at yourself a little bit.
No, that's not how it works in Russia.
You don't think?
It's not how it works here. Here it's like the Western world, the Western society is like corrupted and terrible and has no manners and there's nothing holy in the West.
Okay.
That's like average opinion about the West.
Do you think, I mean, because there are obviously parallels when you think back to the situation in South Africa with apartheid, and sporting boycotts and sporting pressure, along with economic pressure, was a big part of the reason why South Africa was able to make the changes that it did. Do you not think that same kind of thing would work in Russia?
Well, probably not, because Putin is gonna, like, he would even be capable of producing fake athletes to, like, show the country's results or things like that. I don't know. Like, you never know what that guy is capable of.
Sure.
Like, he does a lot of good things, but, you know, he's hard when he needs to be hard. And, like, the facade for a Russian person, or, like, at least a Russian president, that's very important.
Yes.
So I don't know, but like I have heard some rumors about countries like putting the pride flag on their team suits and things like that.
Yes.
And that is not illegal according to Russia law, because all the colors of the spectrum is actually legal in Russia.
Yeah.
So that could be like one way to do it. But actually I saw the Russian team suits, and for me, it was kind of like they had some different colors on them, like almost to resemble a rainbow.
Okay.
And with their attitudes, I think that is taking quite a lot of power away from the LGBT flag.
Okay.
And it kind of makes me sick to the stomach that they're trying to like ignore the countries coming with rainbow flags in that way.
Yes.
That, like this year, everyone has colored suits.
Yes,
so,
yes.
You know.
I mean, so just I mean, obviously it's quite interesting. Your boyfriend is Russian. What's his perspective on this as someone that was born there and grew up there?
Well, his perspectives, they are as they should be with a Russian person. Okay. But he is more likely to not really care.
Okay. Does that cause any conflict in your relationship, or do you just kind of, you know, shrug it off and accept that it's different cultures and so on?
No, for me it is actually very important. Like I have been talking to him a lot about this, because I have friends who are gay, bisexual, and everything, and you know, if he can't accept that, and if he can't see them as human beings instead of a sexuality, then I think that's a shame for him.
Yes.
It would say more about him as a person than them. Yes.
So you mentioned a particular organisation to me earlier, based out of Russia. It's their website is www.lgbtnet.ru. They have both a Russian language section, and they also have an English language section. I was looking at the website earlier.
Ah, you found it?
Yes,
okay.
I did, yes. I think that's something that people that are listening to this should all log on to and have a look at. And there are other things out there as well. I mean, there's a British organisation called Kaleidoscope that does similar work over in the UK. And they have a section on their website relating to what you can do relating to the situation in Russia currently. Their website is at www.kaleidoscopetrust.com. I was having a look at the Russian website just to try and see how people could donate. The only area that talks about donation is the Russian language section. So you'll need to run it through a Google Translate or something like that. And then it talks about how you can send money. What I'm going to try and do is after this interview at some point over the next couple of days, find a way that we can set something up where people that are listening can donate, or they can maybe just send some messages of support or whatever for this particular organisation in Russia that obviously are doing some fantastic work. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Anja? Any other causes that you're a big advocate of, or anything else you'd like to add to this particular thing we've been speaking about?
Well, of course, everyone has their idols, but if people could spread the word and show their support for the LGBT community in Russia, I would be very, very happy, because, you know, I can't do much. I'm just one person. I'm trying to change the mind of the people I know, but it's not easy. So Russia needs support from the countries outside Russia.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. It's the only way that it will change, I think, is that if there's pressure externally.
So find some groups on internet, support them. Especially, there's one Russian site called Detti 404 LGBT. Like in Facebook, that is one of my liked pages. So join that, show your support. You can write support letters in English and show your support for the people in Russia and things like that.
Yes.
or you can just join the site so that their numbers increase.
Yes. What we'll do is I'll make sure I get all these addresses up on our
Awesome.
on our Facebook page and on the website. Once we get the interview posted, we're gonna make a donation ourselves to that particular organisation in Russia, LGBTnet.ru. There is obviously they take rubles, which obviously makes it a bit more difficult for people in Britain and the rest of the Western world to send funds. But there are some good websites now that exist whereby you can send money in pounds or in dollars, and they do a very, very, very inexpensive transfer or currency transfer for you, and then make the payment directly to these organisations. So I'm going to get details of that as well and put those up alongside the interview, so anyone that wants to donate can. Any comments that we get via Facebook, any comments that we get via email, I'll forward them on to you, and I'll always also forward them on directly to lgbtnet.ru, so they've got that global support as well.
Awesome.
But I think what for me is important is that one of the reasons that we started this particular podcast and this particular show was that, you know, we see weightlifters just as athletes. We see them on the platform, we see what they can snatch and what they can clean and jerk, but we don't really get a chance to get to know them as people. We don't really get a chance to know what makes them tick and what matters to them. And I think sometimes because weightlifting isn't the biggest sport, the athletes themselves don't get so much of a voice. As I said, you know, in Russia, Isinbayeva has, you know, opportunity.
Yeah, she got her voice.
She got her voice. She's on
Yeah.
that soapbox. She's on that platform whenever she wants to be. You know, she's in a globally massive sport, and because of that, she has the opportunity.
One thing you have to keep in mind about her is that she gets her salary from the Russian state.
Yes.
If she says anything that doesn't apply to the attitudes of the Russian state, she could get problems.
But she doesn't have to say anything, does she?
Well, she should just support the government
I don't know.
and keep training.
I think she just should say nothing. My personal feeling is that,
well, yeah, if you don't have any good things to say, then shut up.
just say nothing.
That's
Yeah, she doesn't have to support you know, a group that's going to cost her sponsors or cost her funding, but just say nothing. Just say nothing,
Yeah.
and people can assume from that what they want to assume. But yeah, like I say, it's important. It's great that we try and give everyone an opportunity to give their perspective and to be people as well as weightlifters. That's what this is all about for me.
Yeah, it's an awesome project.
But look, Anja, thank you so much for your time. I mean, it really means a lot to us, and you know, I've really been, as you know, I've been really persistent in wanting to get you on for an interview, and you've been so modest. You've been so modest in doing your best not to, you know, you've said that you didn't think people would want to hear what you had to say and stuff, and you know that you didn't think you would be of interest and so on, but.
No, but like if they don't want to listen to what I have to say, like personally about myself and my career, then please just listen to the last things I said about the LGBT community.
Yes.
And support that. That's a good cause.
Absolutely, and we're going to make sure that people are fully aware that that's in there in the interview, and ensure that they at the very, very least fast forward through, but they won't do. They'll listen to it all. They'll definitely listen to it all.
Well, if one person listens to this whole thing, then I will be truly flattered.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot more than one person. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
A lot more.
Well, we'll see.
But look, Anja, thank you so much. We massively appreciate it. I mean, it's been a great interview. It's been a thoroughly interesting interview.
Yeah, same to you guys.
And you know, maybe at some point we'll be able to speak to your boyfriend as well. I'm not sure if his English is up to an interview on the radio. Do you think?
He wouldn't be up to an interview on the radio, but
Okay.
I could translate.
Oh, that's a possibility. That would be great. Maybe we'll do that in the future.
We can try.
Lovely.
Great.
But he's not very easy to convince.
No. We can talk. we can talk about his career, and then I can ask you some questions in English. You can ask him the question, and then you can give me the answer back that you want everyone to hear.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then it'll be on the front. It'll be on the front of all the Russian newspapers and sports magazines tomorrow.
Yes.
How-
Suddenly he has like all these weird attitudes.
Yes, he's a huge supporter of LGBTnet.ru.
And his favourite
Yeah, and he
artist is
spends
Britney
all his
Spears.
salary on that.
Yes, and we'll Photoshop a picture of him with an LGBTnet.ru t-shirt on,
Of course.
waving a big rainbow flag.
I would love that.
Well, Anja, look, thanks so much. Like I say, we'll stay in touch and we'll catch up with you soon. But have a lovely evening, and
guys.
thank you very much again.
Thanks, Anja.
Thank you.
Take
Pleasure
care.
to talk to you.
Bye bye.